Hi. Okay, welcome. You know me, Russell Quirk. I'm joined by a friend of mine, Keith Morton from Morton's personal fitness training. And I'd like to talk to Keith not just about what will be obvious to us, I suspect, insofar as people that have been sat there at home for the last few weeks, not perhaps being as active as they should be, there being an effect on physical and mental health. We want to talk about that. But it might surprise you to know, in fact, you might even recognise Keith's face from the streets of Shenfield, Brentwood and Ingatestone. It might interest you to know and understand how Keith operates insofar as the business he runs. So Keith, welcome.
Hi Russell, how are you?
Yeah, very well, thanks. And look, thanks for doing this, because this is going to seem a bit unconventional because you're not a real estate guy. But
No.
I've rehearsed a few times. There's definite parallels in terms of your business, which I'd like you to explain about in a second if you can, and how
Sure.
you acquire customers, and our business. So did you just want to give us a quick rundown on your business? So your business in Hutton, kind of what it is and how long you've been established and so on?
Yeah, I've been established for now 30 years actually, and 20 years of that actually at Hutton, and 10 years prior to that in Kelton Hatch. I started as a one-to-one personal trainer and developed it into a group personal training system, 3, 4, 5 people, but virtually one-to-one, just work very hard as a trainer, but make it more economical for the customer. So one-to-one was expensive, I made it affordable. So I did that, say 30 years ago, which is unheard of. Only now group training seems to be coming in fashion, but I started it those years ago. But I was very lucky because I got involved with importing fitness equipment, which I knew nothing about, and a good mentor to me and a motivator and a marketing strategist I started working with encouraged me to do it. So I started importing gym equipment, selling it to gyms around the country, as well as run the personal training business. And that helped me a lot with what I'm going to talk about today with you, because I learned the power of prospecting. Whereas just a personal trainer, it was kind of people will come, won't they? But they did to a degree in the earlier non-competitive days. But then when it got harder, I was very grateful I'd learned the skills of prospecting through my equipment business.
Got it. So you've got your
ringing saying, hi, I'm calling. Sorry. So I lost. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, no, I can. I was just going to say, obviously, you're in the wilds of Essex a little bit, so your connection isn't brilliant.
I am.
Hopefully, it's going to be all right.
Yeah, sorry, it's not great.
Keep coming in and out. So yeah. Sorry, what was the last?
Yeah, I just said so. So I basically was lucky enough to learn the power of prospecting to gym owners, going to see them face-to-face contact, but learning how to follow up, book appointments, and then convert it into gym equipment sales. And that was all going on alongside me running the gym business as well. And then fast forward many more years when I decided to really pull away from the gym equipment business because I wasn't enjoying it as much, excessive traveling, and just focus on my gym business. I found that the conventional lead generation, in other words, leafleting, even to an extent referrals, wasn't enough to make the business profitable and struggling really. So I turned my head with some advice about, what could I do to generate more leads? And suddenly, eureka moment popped in my head. Well, I have no problem approaching people. I believe fanatically in what I do and the way we do it. And I don't feel, if someone rejects me, I don't take it personally, which is part of the mindset we'll talk about. And I said, well, why can't I apply this cold calling or warm calling phone call to approaching people in a high street or in a supermarket about my personal training business, and then giving them some basic advice, inviting them to come and have a chat, maybe a trial session or even a week of personal training we do. And nearly every person who came to the door joined up once they come to the door. So as a lead generation, I discovered something that I systemized then. And then I ended up training personal trainers, and I still do, on how to do it in their gym around the country, to go around their supermarkets and their high streets to get business.
So you train trainers, prospects?
I've done many courses over the last 5 years in particular on training business owners, gym owners in the industry I work in, on how to generate leads through high streets and supermarkets, village fetes, wherever there's people, basically, in a very professional, friendly, non-intimidating way. In other words, in very simple terms, giving people some qualified advice about what they want to achieve in terms of health and fitness, and then hopefully building up your expert positioning enough so they say, well, I wouldn't mind finding out a bit more. And then with the offer of maybe a free consultation or even a free session or two, you know, it's incredible how what is basically, if I hadn't done this, I would not be running the business now. It saved my business because the conventional marketing wasn't working. And what it made me do was, you know, think about, well, what's wrong with approaching people Gordon Ramsay style? What's wrong with it? Just do it in a very professional, friendly way.
And you mean what you just said there, Keith? So you approaching people in the street and turning them into leads that then convert has been the difference between your business surviving and not surviving?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So talk to us about a couple of things then. So obviously you're not fazed by going up to people in the street. What does that feel like?
Without a shadow of a doubt, I know for a fact, because I spend my life arguably being rejected, because as everyone in business knows, and especially in sales, the classic expression "it's a numbers game" rings true on this more than anything else. Because, you know, if I know my numbers, and that's one bit of advice I'd give to a newbie prospector is learn quickly your numbers and try and improve on them. Obviously, and you know, I know that if I approach, let's say, 10 people, one of them will have a kind of conversation with me. Literally almost every time is 1 in 10 will actually talk to me rather than dismiss me. So I know that from the start.
That's the data that you now understand from months and years of doing this. So you know,
Correct.
You approach 10 people and talk to 10 people, one of them will come and have a session.
Well, one of the 10 people will actually talk to me, and then basically 1 in 5 of those people will actually give me their name and number and then come down. The join-up rate is 80-90% from turning up. That's why if someone said to me, well, which often they do, is what's more important, getting the name and number or actually the follow-up process? Without a shadow of a doubt, 80-20, 20% is getting the name and number. Obviously, it's important. You wouldn't have the second bit without the first bit. But the 80%, which is where people fall down on this, is they don't have a structured follow-up system that cuts people loose when the timing is right without hassling them, but equally pursues it relentlessly and blocks out time in the first 1 or 2 days, having met them and made the impact, to make sure you book them in for the appointment. And so I think the whole process of the follow-up is more important than actually generating the initial lead.
But look, it's fascinating because basically I'm just working this out in my head. You know that for every 70 people you approach, you get a sign-up.
Oh, for sure. Correct. If not better, I'm being conservative. I bettered that. I mean, I'll give you an example. I used to do Sainsburys. A day at Sainsburys cost me £300, which some people say, oh, it's extortionate. I did it myself, often or with a colleague. In one day, I would get between 50 and 70 leads. I would get in one day. It'd be a long day, 8 o'clock, 8:30 till 6 p.m, 7 p.m, continuous, just with toilet breaks and a bit of 5 minutes to clear your head. But it'd be relentless enthusiasm, giving people advice, giving them information, and then basically getting their name and number. The key is to control it, of course, which is obvious in sales. Don't leave it to them to ring you. Control it. And if you ask the extra question, most people, when you got onto a certain stage, will give you the name and number if they trust you at that point. So when I did Sainsburys, many times I would get 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 leads in one hard day. I would get a minimum 10 members from those 70 leads actually join up. And each member was worth between £800 and £1,500 on a 1 or 2 year membership. So in simple terms, my best ever month was £40,000.
40 grand. And so the ROI, that 300 quid ROI.
So my best ever month was 40 grand.
Wow. I mean, that
so if you take the VAT out of the equation, basically, I mean, I worked it out briefly before today, just to give you the stat, is it is something like approximately between sort of £6,000 to £8,000 after VAT deducted return for spending 300 quid.
So have you ever worked out, I mean, look, knowing your numbers is vital in terms of the data and knowing what it's worth. So you can work out almost what it costs when you approach one person. So you know that how much money goes in your pocket as a consequence of just having a conversation with somebody.
Correct, yeah. You got well, and it's obviously, I mean, a lot of it comes down to putting aside the performance of the prospector, which is another conversation about are they fit, are they enthusiastic, are they wearing the right attire? All that comes into it, because if you go out with the wrong uniform on, I've been out just due to circumstance without my club uniform on. I've tried to prospect, and I've found it far harder, and the numbers I've just talked to you about are not hit because they don't know who you are. I've gone out leaflets and not to really give leaflet. Conversation starter, can I give you a leaflet? I actually don't give the leaflet until the end of the conversation, once I've got the name and number normally anyway, but brand on it. I've tried it without, and it's disastrous, whether that's psychological on my part or whether it's actual. I believe people will scan you within, especially if you start to approach from maybe 5 meters away, they scan you and they're sussing you out. And if they can't see who you're from, what you represent, then they're very, very nervous. If they can see, they may have seen me before, they relax a little bit. And that is the first start of the conversation. So I think, there's many details I've learned along the way, what you mustn't do with it.
And that's quite interesting. That could be quite interesting in our world, to make sure that you're wearing almost a name badge if you're door knocking, for instance, so that you relieve the anxiety of someone really not knowing who you are.
To make it easier to get these numbers.
Oh, keep losing you there. Sorry. Bad line. You back?
I think a lot of people would say that, all communication, you lose their faith and trust in you in the first few moments. So if you don't give them, you don't make it easy enough to realise this guy is from Morton's Personal Fitness or from British Gas, or whatever. If they don't see their credibility, then they're on the back foot, they've got their guard up. And what they normally do in this term is simply walk on by and say, no, thank you. Now, I know for a fact that 95%, and I've monitored this, of people will turn me down on my first question. And my question is, Madam, sir, can I give you a leaflet? And I know that 99% really, everyone turns me down. So given that information, I have a second and third question up my sleeve, ready to hit them with, to hopefully start that conversation, which is key. And sometimes it doesn't work, often it does.
You know they're going to say no.
I think the I know they're going to say no. So if and I always train people, say, look, they're going to say no on the odd occasion, minority, one in maybe one a week of doing 5 hours a week, or one a week might say, oh, that's great, they'll give me a leaflet. The other people never do. They just say no thank you, or no interest whatsoever. And I think you have to judge their reaction, but you need to try and keep the conversation, or get a conversation going. What I would say is, I've also monitored the amount of people that who do say no, and they won't give me that. After a 5-minute conversation, say they want to come down to give me their name and number. So as a prospector, the way I see that is, if I don't have control over it, they won't, with the grace. They meant it at the time sometimes, but they get taken off in life and then never do call. So, Russell, hello.
Yeah, no, I'm still here. I'm worried about this line, to be honest, Keith. So I'll turn my camera off to see if it gives us a bit more bandwidth. So that makes it better, because I'm sure people are more interested.
That's fine.
More interested in seeing than they are me.
That's fine. That's okay. No problems at all. But so I think, and there are one or two things that I've taught people over the years to how you combat that classic one, which is, you've had a really good conversation, great rapport, they're very, very keen, and then right at death when you say, oh, madam, can I just take your phone number and I'll give you a call to invite you down, set a time to come down for a free chat. Then they say, no, thank you, I'll definitely call you, which of course they don't. And you have to work out whether, is there a way around that? There is a very good way that I teach that will actually make them 5 times out of 10 go, okay, then here's my phone number. And I learned that by cobbling it together through trial and error. But it is frustrating when you meet someone and it goes very well and they won't give you a number, because I do know from experience that they really don't then come down to see you. And I see them a year later and they've put more weight on. They're desperate now to get themselves healthy and fit, and they regret not coming down a year ago.
So what's your technique, or what should someone's technique be? So in our world, it's about door knocking. Obviously, we wouldn't necessarily go up to people in the street insofar as trying to hook them as a prospect. We'd knock on a door. What do you think the mindset, the attitude, or the first words that someone should say should be to try to get over their fear of not knowing what to say and being rejected?
Yeah, I think I go back a stage, you say, before they even actually say anything. think that look of, I mean, I'm sure that they'd be professionally dressed and appropriately, but that look and maybe a name tag would be appropriate to start with, because that people are sussing you out in microseconds. And I think also the positioning where someone stands. I know in the high street scenario, if I jump out on someone and we're close to them, it scares the hell out of them and actually puts them off and they don't talk to me. So I always have make eye contact with them from quite a distance away, without being too far. Again, I'm not an expert on door knocking, double glazing salesman maybe, but I do know that don't get too close to their private zone. That's the first thing I say. In terms of the lead question, I think what I do is I actually offer a leaflet, knowing they're going to say no. Or Keith, and that again obviously is straightforward. But I always have a lead question, and in my case, it is really, unfortunately, whether it be can I offer you a leaflet about our personal training club, or whether it be can I ask you, madam, are you very fit, without being offensive. But I do know the answer again is they either say no to the leaflet or they say no, I've no interest. Now I think you'll get the same as that. But I think you've got to get to that second question and the third question. And what I normally find for a second and third question would be something that is not an open closed. They can't say yes, they can't say no. It's more, I would ask, may I just quickly ask you, what areas of fitness could you improve on? And then I volunteer, would you like to get more toned up? Would you like to increase your energy levels? Would you like to reduce stress? I'm fishing really with loads of benefits, hoping some of it will cause a reaction saying, well, yes, I would like that. So I think the second and third question, having been turned down, has to be something relating to, well, they've got to give you an answer rather than the yes or no.
This is fascinating. So basically what I'm getting from this is that know your numbers, because it is all about the numbers, whatever your particular success rate as an individual might be in terms of getting having the conversation, getting the phone number and the contact details, then getting the appointment, then closing them, and pushing through the fear. Yeah, and pushing through the fear.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, you know, not me. People say, "Oh, yeah, how do you get on top of rejection?" You don't ever not have fear of rejection. In fact, if I miss 2 or 3 days, I'm already starting.
Keith, I've lost you. Can you hear me okay?
Play a little first, and then I can hear you okay. Hear me?
Yeah, sorry, it's cutting in and out. Should we
I'll say that again.
Jump to some fitness stuff before we go?
Yeah.
So I'm someone that sits in my chair for 8 or 9 hours a day, and you and I, before we started this conversation, you told me how terrible that was, even though I do go out walking and try to keep fit. What should we be doing as individuals that are sat at home working for 8, 9 hours a day behind a desk?
Well, I think it's very simple. Still hopefully keep your structured walk, YouTube video, whatever people are doing, bike riding, whatever they're doing. Keep doing that. But in addition to that, if you are going to sit down more than an hour at a time, medical dangerous to do a number of hours sitting down with no activity, even if you are doing an hour later on thinking you're counteracting it. You're not. In fact, it's doing you no harm by going and exercising, but it's not benefiting you like it would be if you're active. So every hour, get up, do something for 2, 3, 4 minutes or so, maybe 5 minutes, involving movement, whether walk up the stairs, up and down 5 times, or do some press ups, or something that gets some fresh air, walk on the spot for a minute. Something involving movement for your heart and lungs has been proven to really help you in terms of cardiovascular, your heart and lungs, and prevent illness and disease. The medical people are very worried about this sit down, watch telly for 3, 4 hours in the evening at this current time, and sit down during Zoom calls, because you need to exercise every hour for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, something.
Yeah. Well, no, particularly prevalent at the moment. So, look, Keith, thank you. Tell people how they can contact you if they want to change their lives and get fit and have a longer, healthier life.
Yeah, we have a personal training club when open, hopefully in July, in Hutton Industrial Estate, opposite Screwfix. We do small group personal training. If they want to contact me, we have a fairly active Facebook page, just at Mortons Fitness. And very welcome. We're putting lots of stuff on, advice at the moment, free of charge to just watch and look at. and guide people. What I would say is you've got to find your own form of exercise that incorporates the three S's, which is strength, stamina, and suppleness. You've got to do a bit of everything really to keep a good balance and make sure you do it regularly. Exercise every day.
Brilliant. So Keith, I'm going to try and turn my video back on now. Well, look, thank you very much.
Right.
You stay there because I'm going to turn the recording off now. So stay there in a sec. But look, thank you very much. And hopefully our audience will take on board and appreciate your tips and guidance. And
Sure.
Some of the numbers that you
Hope so.
articulated there were really, really quite impressive. So yeah, just stay there for a second.
Well, I think with that, yeah, sure.